Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences.
Hey, it's been a minute. Good evening, everyone. Sandra Chef-Frere, host of Race and the Races. It's been a minute, right? And so that's black math. When I say it's been a minute, it's been probably like a month since I've done my last live. And folks were like, where have you been? You know, I ran into some people in the last couple of weeks and they were like, you know, I actually watched the show. Where have you been? I haven't seen you. You got to check in every now and then. So I probably should have at least, you know, maybe do some recorded videos or something like that. But you know, we spent when I say we, I mean the Haitian Advocates and I, we spent a bulk of the summer starting at the end of June to all of July until about the first weekend in August doing some town halls because you know all of the changes that keep happening with immigration law. They started off being just about TPS, but then they ended up being more about, you know, trying to give people information on how it is they can find ways to get lawful status, in the United States, or just kind of figure out that, you know, maybe they won't be able to do that. And then they have to start preparing themselves for the tough decision that they may, in fact, have to leave the United States. So, I mean, that was it was good work, and it still is good work. However, it was draining work. I mean, it really was a lot. It was real draining, and yeah, but we did it. We got it done. We actually have took a little bit of time off because everyone had to get the children ready for school and all different types of things. Wrap up the summer and get back to that the grinding of doing a bunch of different things. But yes, we spent the summer doing those town halls. But what I do have to say is that we actually didn't leave a gap by us not doing the town halls. It's not like we left a gap. What we also noticed that many other organizations, nonprofits alike, elected officials, they saw the importance of what that is, or maybe not necessarily getting inspired or motivated by the Haitian Advocates, but maybe they just realize that the climate is just changing, that we have, that information needs to come out. So there are a lot of different groups, organizations, churches that are getting involved in providing this information out to the community, particularly after that big ugly bill that's called the Big Beautiful Bill came out, and it was in the reality of how much money is about to go into the Department of Homeland Security. People just said, oh, this is for real, and it's going to be for real, and it's going to be very, very serious for a long time to come, because they right now is probably the most well-funded department in the government at the expense of a whole bunch of other things. And so people realize that it's serious, and the effort to take every illegal out of the United States is something that this administration is looking to do. Now, I have to tell you that they won't be able to do it because there's so many people. And part of the problem with that is just too many people. But the other thing is, it's a big misnomer when they're saying that people are illegal and undocumented. They're just basically putting together anyone that's not a lawful permanent resident of the United States or a citizen of the United States, and referring to them as illegal, undocumented, and all of those terms. And that is not accurate from legalese and just like in real life talk. It's not accurate talk, but that's just the way it's being presented. So, we spent the summer doing that. Like I said, it was really good, fulfilling work. Shout out to a whole bunch of people that was involved in that effort. Immigration attorneys, mortgage specialists, therapists, psychologists, just social workers, mental health folks, people who are that does guardianships. Big shout out to like Flick, with their Know Your Rights information that they generously provided, and allowed staff to come and help with that effort. So yeah, we spent a lot of the summer doing that all important work. Still in telling people, if there's a way for you to get some lawful status in the United States, you really need to work on that, because it's not going to get better. The detention and enforcement of people is not going to stop. There's a lot of real bad law that's just coming out, that's making it harder and harder for folks when they're detained. One of the things I talked about, very often during the summer, was people who came to the attention of immigration by getting arrested. And so a lot of folks, they don't want to stay into the county jails. They don't want to stay, it's mainly the county jails. They don't want to stay arrested. So they post those bonds hoping to go into immigration. Let me tell you something. Don't do that. Like, I don't know how many different ways I can say that, but I'm telling you, if by some unfortunate reason you end up getting arrested for something and you don't have any status, you need to stay in the county jail, resolve your case to whatever that is going to look like, and then get sent over into ICE custody if that's going to be part of your reality. But don't post your bond thinking you're going to go into ICE custody and get a bond. It ain't happening. You're not getting one. Like, when I tell you you're not getting one, you're not getting one, because they've taken away so many categories of folks that were eligible for bonds at some point, that you're not going to get a bond. So don't, stay in the county jail, resolve your case, get over to ICE, and then figure out what you're going to do when you get there, right? But that ain't really all of what I was supposed to talk about, but I felt, the need to just kind of give some update on what it is that we're doing, explain a little bit about why I haven't been around for like a month or so. I've been around. I just haven't been online doing new episodes, but I definitely wanted to make sure I get back on it, because that information is needed. And since we have an event, like I said, on Sunday, no need to promote it, because I think there's a built-in audience that's coming in with that group. So not talking about that, but look out. There are a lot of elected officials, a bunch of different folks that are doing things. So support those events, get that information. Help people in whatever way you can. Tell them to go have consultations with attorneys for them to figure out what their status is, because let me tell you, it's really important. They're building more and more detention facilities. They're contracting more and more with county jail, state prisons, any place where they think they can go load folks up. They're trying to do that. One update is that there was a judge that basically said that they needed to shut down Alligator Alcatraz, right? Because of the environmental impact that it's having in that area. And also because, there's Native American land around there too. So for environmental reasons and for those type of reasons, they were saying, this place has to shut down. However, there was another court that said, oh, no, you can't tell them to do that. So it's again in limbo. But one of the things that's happening is that they are actually taking people out of that facility and moving them to different places around, the country. Some people are able to stay in the state. But of course, they're moving folks to Texas, Colorado, California, Georgia, New Mexico, all of these places. But they are taking them out of that facility. Because it really should never have been, right? And some of the arguments that's being made is that, they, invested, $280 million or whatever it is to put the facility together. Listen, they ain't invested no money. They done stole y'all money, because them people, whoever was involved in that, is still going to get paid. And say that is a case. If you study any economics, you learn something that's called sunk costs. It's sunk, S-U-N-K costs. That money's already lost. If they continue to operate that facility, that's still more money that's going to be spent. Just take your losses, let that place go. It was not built in a way that could really truly provide the constitutional protections for the individuals that was detained there. They just had no setup to really deal with what needed to be done. And even if you are anti-immigrant, hate them, don't think they should have any luxuries, they should at least have a place where they could use the bathroom, right? There should at least be a sewer system over there, right? There should at least be some water that's in that place. Not that it has to get trucked in every day, right? So come on now. Even you could be the worst of the worst. Though there's just some basic stuff that people should have, even as they're going to be sent out the country, whatever you want to call it. But you can't be okay with people being in places where there's no water. Now, understand, you can hate those immigrants all you want, but they're American citizens. They're family members. They're your loved ones that's working in that place that can get just as sick as those detainees, right? Catching all kind of diseases that could be very contagious, airborne, whatever. So even if you don't care about the immigrants, care about your family members, your friends, or whoever that work in those facilities that will also be impacted by the fact that ain't no clean water over there, ain't no running water over there. It got to come in. There's really no food over there. There's a whole bunch of crazy mosquitoes, snakes, alligators, all kind of crazy things over there. It's just not a safe place. So, understand that part. All right, enough on that. And so, yeah, let's talk about so the topic is about, I finally watched Game of Thrones. And y'all be like, you've just watched it? Yes, I just watched it. My son, we had a deal, whatever. I ended up finally watching it, right? And I resisted watching it because, it was 8 seasons long. Like, who has that type of time, right? It was the summer, still busy because of what I do, but I made the time. So there was some loss of sleep happening in order for me to do this. But what really got to me, like while I was watching it, and because I'm watching it in this moment, there's no way that you can't, for me, I could not watch it without comparing it to our political climate that's happening right now, right? So I was comparing some of the things I saw to like the political climate. I was also comparing, some of the historical stuff, right? Like, how folks was living at that time, and, how the people in the North were living, and, the folks in the South, and the ones behind the wall, outside the wall, the countries that had warmer weather, where there was a whole bunch of enslaved folks, but they also had spices. They had gold. They had all of these natural resources. The people just seemed to be a little bit calmer. It's all those different things. So I just watched that. But what really struck out to me was those folks in power. And then at this point, I really have to talk about the women like Cersei and Daenerys, right? I think that's her name. And how, Cersei was just like, she was willing to let everybody die in order for her to maintain power. There was like, this is near the end, right? I'm not going, some of the beginning episodes, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on. There was a lot of things happening that I was like, what we doing? So she was willing to let everybody die for her to maintain power. But one of the things that was interesting is that when she allowed that religious zealot, she brought him on in order for her to punish her son's wife because she didn't want her to be queen and all of this type of stuff, and more so for his brother. But then, because the brother was engaged in some conduct that was against the church, and because the sister who was the queen was gonna protect her brother, she got in trouble too, and so ended up in a jail. But then, Cersei ends up doing something that the church was like, well, you wrong too, ma'am. And then she had to take that walk of shame and, and all these different things, right? But, she was going to maintain her power. And if that meant she had to burn the whole building down and kill everybody in it in order for her to be queen and sit on the Iron Throne, she was willing to do that, right? And then I'm just like, are we witnessing some of that happening, right? I'll say we are, right? We keep sounding the alarm. We meaning folks who just see a lot of what's happening, and they're sounding the alarms. They listen, we're losing our democracy. Listen, they're on their way to fascism here. Listen, they're about to let people die, not be able to eat, so they can maintain certain power. Pay attention to what's happening. And you see this, right? This big, beautiful bill, which we all know is a big, ugly bill, where they're going to cut Medicaid, cut Medicare, cut SNAP benefits, do all of these things at the expense of people. Like, really? You want to keep your power? You want to make rich folks have more tax breaks that they don't already need at the expense of everybody else? Some of that's happening, right? the CDC thinks that's happening with, we're going to get rid of vaccines and we're going to get rid of the, not listen to anything that's happened that the CDC, the Center for Disease Control, is talking about, right? We're going to let RFK be in charge of, the Health and Human Services or whatever department he's in. The man has a worm in his brain, and I'm not saying, and I understand addiction, right? So not everyone that had a history of addiction can't be capable of finding, rehabilitating themselves and finding ways to really contribute and give back. He just have a lot of things going on that this man should not be in charge of making any health decisions for the entire country, right? So we see this kind of stuff happening. They're closing out departments, firing researchers. People are just saying, like, I can't be a part of this. This is crazy. They're cutting funding, for cancer research, all different types of things. We're watching this happen. So as I was watching the Game of Thrones and the people were just letting folks die, tearing up the place, it's like, we're watching this happen for what, one person to be able to, I don't know what he's trying to do. But what I know is, because they want to maintain their power, they're willing to let other people, they're willing to sacrifice everyone else, right? And this, the whole idea of wanting to maintain power, we're witnessing that happen for real, right? In the sense that, the other thing that's going on right now, well, actually happened already, was Texas, the state of Texas, just basically agreed to redo their map, right? To create, to gerrymander their map. Let me just use the word. They agreed to gerrymander their map to allow for, to give an advantage to Republican candidates, because it was trending that there was going to be a big shellacking in 2026 for the Republicans, in that people are so, maybe disgusted is the word, disappointed, realize that they got bamboozled, whatever you want to call it. They just realized that whatever motivated them to vote the way they voted in 24, they got some buyer's remorse. They have a lot of regrets, and they're starting to see that, right? So people are like, oh no, we're going to have to flip this, right? So because the writing is on the wall, now the administration is calling on states like Texas, I think Missouri, and Florida may try to get in a mix. And there's one other state that they're calling out to try to get them to redo their maps to give the Republicans an advantage in 26. I don't think that's going to work, right? I don't think that's going to work, and I hope it doesn't work, because what we have in response is California saying, oh, y'all want to do that? We could play that game too. However, California's, even though they're saying we can play that game, they're still trying to do it in a way that's not the same way in which the Republicans did it, because what the governor agreed to do was put it as on the ballot and let the people in the state of California make a decision on whether or not they should redo the maps, right? Yeah, that is the right thing to do. However, you're giving, big money folks who are benefiting from the nonsense that are happening right now an opportunity to fund, to basically put money in to try to kill that initiative, right? We've even heard that, there are people who are saying that they're willing to put in like $100 million against this vote that's supposed to happen on November the 4th to prevent California from being able to redo their maps to counterbalance what happened in the state of Texas. So we'll see. But there are other states like New York, Illinois that can redo their maps also to, again, make it possible where maybe the Republicans will never have a majority in the House of Representatives again. So we'll see that. But the connection to that in the Game of Thrones for me was all the things that people are willing to do to stay in power, right? Now, so that was Cersei. She was like, let them all die. I don't care. She's going to stay in power. And at the end, she ended up losing her life. But how many people went down with her in order for that to happen? Now, Daenerys, she did something different, because she went in saying that she did not want to see slavery happen anymore. And her goal was to make sure all the folks were free and all of these different things, right? So she went in well-meaning, right? Or at least, all the seasons prior to the last one. She went in well-meaning, seeming as though she was going to, do what was right for the people. She wanted to go do the work for the people. Okay. Now, at the end, after she done killed Cersei, the whole place or whatever, the soldiers in that war said, we concede. They dropped down their weapons and they were like, we're done. Okay, you won, sister girl. We got it. Leave us alone. We gonna bend the knee to you, right? And for her, that was not enough. It was not enough. It was not enough. She didn't care that they bent the knee. She's allowed Grey Worm to cut their heads off, and then she had her and the dragon just burnt down the whole place. And it was just like, what you doing, girl? You won the war, you won the battle, you won the war, you got it. Hey, but no, she burnt it all down. So much so that, and this ain't no spoiler alert, because if y'all ain't watching by then, maybe y'all gonna do it, and then it's still worth watching if you're gonna watch it. And near the end, Jon Snow had to make a decision. He was like, girl, I love you, but you came in saying you was about to do the work of the people, but right about now, your work, what you're doing is not for the people. This is more about you and what you want, and we don't see where this going to end, and way too many people are going to die because you are too drunk with power. And then he took her life. And whether that's right or wrong, I don't know, but what I'm saying is that we need to be careful. So the point that I was thinking about in Daenerys' case is that we have these individuals. We had people who were community activists that decided that say, you know what, I need to change this system, and I think I can do a better job changing the system from within, right? They're like, I can do a better job changing the system from within. So what do? They go run for office, they get elected, and then do they get drunk with power? Do they get drunk with the access to power? Do they get drunk by the proximity to power? Something happens, and then the work becomes no longer about doing what the people sit them to do. They get too caught up in worrying about getting reelected, right? And if the goal shifts from doing the work of the people to being concerned about being reelected, you may have to do some things that's not for the benefit of the people in order for you to get reelected. And that should never, okay, so I'm not saying that it shouldn't be a concern, but that should never be the priority of someone that's calling themselves a public servant and saying that they're taking a position in order for them to do the work of the people. Because sometimes it may be like, okay, I did what I came to do. I did all that I could do. If the people don't want me here no more, then, or somebody else could come and do that work better, I may need to step back to move forward, then that's what you do. But your focus can't always be about being reelected, right? And in that, you kind of lose sight of the people. And then the other ones who are drunk with power, been there 20, 30, 40 years, don't want to give it up because they keep thinking like, oh yeah, I'm still, I understand government, I can make a difference. Yeah, kind of no, right? Like, no, it's time for some fresh blood, because there's been some very big shifts in the world right now, and you may have got, someone that might have been there 20, 30, 40 years, you may just be a little too disconnected about how regular people are living every day for you to truly be effective and do the work that needs to be done, right? And so that, right? And then I'm gonna get into this age stuff. They can call it ageist or whatever, right? Because I'm one of those people. I may not look as old as I am, but I got a lot of numbers on me, right? But and I feel disconnected from young folks, right? And I'm not as old as, these people who are 79, 80, 85, 87 years old that are still in office. You are too disconnected from what the youth are talking about and what's going on in order for you to maintain those positions. So at this point, please, people who may be my age, don't be scared to run against them, because it's really too much of a disconnect. They need to just go retire, go play with your great-great-grandkids, go do something else, get out of public life, let somebody else come in and try to really be about this fight, okay? Because right now, this is this is serious. This is real serious. We can't have people in there that's worried about being reelected, because we need people who are going to be in office at this point that's going to need to make the hard decisions that need to be made. There's some hard decision that has to be made. There's going to be some unpopular decision that needs to be made. You might get the people who gave you big money might be mad at you, but that is okay, because at this point, you can't be there. Like, you just you just can't be there no more. This ain't working. You're too disconnected. The issues are changing. We need people who are willing to, okay, if I lose, that's okay, right? That's okay, because I'm here and I really need to go back. I need to go. We need people that can do the work, right? And fighters gonna fight, and we need people who fight. We need folks who are lambs to become lions, because this fight is real. It is real. It is real. It's real. And this thing is not about race. This is not no black and white thing, right? This is purely about economics. This is rich versus poor. And when folks are talking about what's happening and they try to always frame it and be like, oh no, we got to look out for black and brown people and all that. No, don't even use that argument, because if the people cared about black and brown folks, we wouldn't be here to start with, right? We wouldn't be here. So we are here, and so we need to reach out and get the message to those folks in a way in which they're going to accept it. People who have the ability and the power to change what's going on, trying to appeal to them and tell them about how what's going on is impacting black and brown folks is not the answer. They don't care. They ain't care then. They don't care now. That is not that's not going to change any hearts and minds. You need to tell them about how they going to work every day and they barely can pay their bills. You need to tell them about how they're going to work every day and gas prices are going up. You need to tell them about how what they used to be able to buy in a grocery store a year ago, not even a year ago, 7-8 months ago, they can't buy it now, right? It's too expensive. That's what people need to talk about. People in the state of Florida, let them know about how your insurance has quadrupled in the last, 4 years, 5 years since this, the administration in Florida has been here. You need to talk to them about those things, the stuff that's really having an impact on them. I was speaking to someone the other day and they told me what their rent was. And I was like, that's more than my mortgage. And I live in a decent sized house. I'm like, you paying that in rent? So the rent is too high. Like how many jobs you have to have in order for you to just have rent, pay rent, move into a place. So let me tell you, we can't talk about this in terms black or white. Nobody don't care about that. Like the people who should care about that or who can make a difference, they don't care about that. Tell them and remind them, because maybe, remind them about how their life is being affected in some sort of terrible way. And they think they're in a better situation. They're absolutely not, right? And you could be happy about immigrants getting kicked out the country, so maybe don't even try to say, listen, this is what y'all really want. Let them know how. And again, I'm not reducing immigrants to a labor pool, but the reality is there are a lot of things that they did when it comes to labor that other folks didn't do, right? Your fruits and vegetables are costing more. Ain't nobody here to cut your grass. If you need to get that roof done, it ain't happening. Or if you are getting it done, it's costing you way more. The labor person that used to be able to go get in front of Home Depot to help you out to, do a day job for you, those folks aren't there. Again, I'm not reducing immigrant population to labor, but I'm telling you it's being affected. The labor is being affected. And mind you, so interestingly enough, right? They're kicking all these immigrants out of the United States, right? And where the jobs, right? The job thing is so bad that I don't think the president is going to talk about, how many jobs was brought into the economy no more, because it is dismal. It is terrible. All these immigrants are gone and anybody else got a new job for all the ones that were vacant? No. And part of the reason why is because people are losing their businesses too, right? It may have been Nebraska or it might be another state, but I know the farmers who were, gung-ho on voting, thinking tariff was going to benefit, was going to be a benefit to them. We don't know why. And disagreeing with some of the policies that this administration was talking to them about, even though they were warned that y'all don't want this. Now they're out here begging and saying, listen, I done lost my farm. I can't sell the soybean to the Chinese no more, even though they used to, buy 28% of the soybeans because of all of the uncertainty that's happening. They're like, look, help us out. Like, we need something. And they're not getting to something. They didn't care when they were saying that USAID was only going to affect those starving children in the foreign countries in Africa. They didn't care about that. So don't talk about the starving children in Africa. Tell them about how they finna starve right here in the state of Nebraska or wherever they, Iowa, Ohio, whatever, wherever their farm is, that they're not getting the type of money that they need in order for them to run and operate their farm, or they're not getting paid for things that they've already done, or they can't make the loan payments because they're not getting reimbursed the way they were supposed to. Talk to them about that. Don't talk to them about children in Africa, because clearly they don't care, right? And we even got to go to Africa. We could go talk about children that's in the United States. So let's talk about that. So the Game of Thrones connections, people get drunk with power. They will do anything to maintain it, even though it's going to cost people their lives. I think we're seeing some of that happen right now. And, you know, and then the elected officials who go in, well-meaning, good intention, said they was going to go there and do the work of the people. And then they get there, and all of a sudden, they more worried about their own self than the people that sit them there. And those folks got to go. There's a great opportunity that's coming up in less than a year, because there are primaries, at least in the state of Florida, in August, and places around the United States. There are going to be primaries in August. That is time to just kick all them folks out that are not there to do the work. Now, understand that you don't even need all the Republicans to just say, okay, enough's enough. You only need about 5 of them. Okay, out of the 219 that are there, and I think that's the number, you only need about 5 of them to say, you know what, this is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy. And this is real crazy. Let's go and try to turn this back and do what's right for the people of this nation. You can't get 5 of them. And I don't only blame them. I blame the Democrats, because y'all over here talking some bipartisan stuff. Y'all talk about how y'all have these good Republican friends and all of this stuff, and y'all can't convince 5 of them to do what's right and do what's right for the American people. Yeah, you failing at what you're doing. If you can't convince 5 out of 219 people to go ahead and do what's right for the American public. So y'all taking some of that blame too. And that's why some of y'all also got to go. It's not just the Republicans. And I'm not saying that there should be no Republicans in Congress. I'm just saying it shouldn't be the Republicans that are there right now. So other Republicans that are a little bit more moderate, that got a little bit of sense, that knows that, okay, we can't have people out here starving. We can't have people out here losing their farms. We can't just be mistreating folks because of this, the politics of whatever. So you're going to go in there and do the right thing. Now, this whole immigration thing, this is just this election cycle version of same-sex marriages, abortion, all that. That's what they used the last time to get people to be on their side, and they ain't stopped none of that, right? They ain't stopped none of it. Some of it to some extent, but not the way in which they had everybody in a frenzy about it, right? So this is just the thing right now that they can make you think or distract you with, and get you all caught up. And while your life is miserable for real, they make you think that they're doing something that's making your life better, but they're not. They're just robbing you in plain sight. This was totally robbing people in plain sight. And I have some other notes about some things I was going to talk about, but I wanted to keep the show at about 30 minutes. And then, I could revisit this. So the folks who are drunk with power, find ways to get rid of them. The folks who are there, and now they lost sight of why they were elected in the first place, get rid of them. We can absolutely do better. And we have to, right? So that's it. Game of Thrones, it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. There's some parts of it that I don't think is necessarily what we should talk about on the show. But yeah, there were some parts about it, at least in some of the historical stuff. They were telling some truth that some people may not have been able to pick up. But I'm glad I did finally get to watch it. It was a little too violent for me in a whole bunch of places, so parts of it I closed my eyes. However, I'm glad I did finally get to see it, and everything's always on God's timing, because this was the season in which I needed to see that show. All right, so thank you all for watching and indulging. Yeah, we have an opportunity. We got 11 months for us to start, making some changes. with the folks who are going to go represent us in the next at the both, not only just the state level, but on the federal level. And we have an opportunity to make some changes, and we need to do that. We absolutely need to do it. Folks, if y'all want to run, you should have started running last year, but you definitely need to step your game up, make your decisions, put it out in the atmosphere, and start to get people to support you in a way that can get you, because change got to come. Listen, power concedes nothing without demand, right? And we need to demand and get our power back from these folks that are there, no longer for the will of the people, but for their own self-interest. And that's not what public servants are supposed to do. So have a good night, and see you all next week. Hey, y'all, Sandra Sheffner, host of Racing the Races. Go ahead, please subscribe to our YouTube channel called Racing the Races. Subscribe to our TikTok page, Racing the Races, and like us on Facebook and Instagram, Racing the Races. Go ahead, support the page. I'm tired of getting crazy comments from these white dude trolls that's mad. Like, why y'all mad in the comments now? So come on, y'all, those who are fans of the show, go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, comment on the video. Tell us what it is what else you would like to see, instead of me having to read all these trolling comments. But I see it as a compliment, because I showed up in their feed and I really don't know who they are. And since they're not challenging the content is good. They want to make personal attacks, but that's okay. So I need y'all to go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube page, subscribe to TikTok. All of it is called Racing the Races, and go ahead and like us on Facebook and Instagram.